ARMY splashy. Jungkook suddenly hugged Jimin after this emotional statement. Fans couldn't believe it. Face screaming in fear, revolving hearts. The atmosphere that initially felt calm suddenly turned into full of emotion and sweet tension. No one expected that such a simple moment would turn into one of the most talked about events by the ARMY in such a short time. Jungkook, who was known to be calm but full of feelings, suddenly stepped closer to Jimin and hugged him tightly. It all happened right after an emotional statement was made by Jimin, a short sentence, but full of meaning, which seemed to open the door to emotions that had been suppressed. For BTS fans, this moment is not just a hug. It is a symbol. It is a language of feeling that is not spoken directly, but understood by millions of hearts that have followed Jungkook and Jimin's journey since the beginning. The short recording that circulated on social media instantly went viral. In a matter of minutes, hashtags related to Jungkook and Jimin's names dominated the trending topic, not only in South Korea, but also in various other countries. At first, everything seemed to go on as usual. Jungkook and Jimin are on the same page, sharing space, sharing time, and sharing a silence that feels deeper than just silence. Jimin, with an expression that looked more serious than usual, finally spoke up. His voice sounded stable, but there was a tremor of emotion that couldn't be hidden. He talks about travel, about fatigue, about gratitude, and about how one survives because someone else is quietly always by his side. Sentence after sentence flows without excessive dramatization. But it was precisely that simplicity that made Jimin's statement feel so real. Many soldiers later admitted to goosebumps when they heard it. Some felt as if Jimin was speaking directly to them. Others felt that the words were addressed to someone standing not far from him. Jungkook's reaction at first was barely legible. He lowered his head, sighing occasionally, and seemed to be trying to hold back something that had settled in his chest. The camera captured the look in his eyes that changed, from cheerful to deep, as if his thoughts drifted far back to those times when they were young, full of dreams, and both learned to survive in the midst of pressure. And then, without warning, Jungkook stood up. The steps are slow but sure. He approached Jimin, who was still standing in his place, and in one spontaneous, almost reflex motion, Jungkook hugged him. Not a quick hug that is just a formality. The hug was tight, warm, and meaningful. Jimin looked surprised. His eyes widened for a moment before finally returning the hug. That moment seemed to stop. The ARMY who watched, both in person and through the screen, felt a surge of emotions that are difficult to explain. Some shed tears, some smiled, and some could only remain silent, letting the feeling sink in slowly. The hug becomes a conversation not because of the sensation alone, but because of the context that accompanies it. Jimin's emotional statement that preceded it made Jungkook's actions feel like an answer that didn't need words. It was as if Jungkook said, "I hear you. I'm here." And Jimin, by replying to that hug, seemed to say yes to everything. Social media also exploded. Pieces of video from different points of view are widespread. Analysis after analysis sprang up. ARMY dissected every little detail, the way Jungkook placed his hand, Jimin's facial expression when hugged, to the duration of the hug that was considered longer than usual. Many call this moment one of the most frank and emotional interactions they have ever seen. Not a few fans associate this event with Jungkook and Jimin's long journey with BTS. The two have been known to have a strong bond for a long time. They grew up together, faced difficult times together, and celebrated successes together. In previous occasions, Jungkook and Jimin often showed their closeness, but this time the moment felt different. Deeper, more personal, and more touching. Some ARMY recalled the early days of BTS's debut, when Jungkook was very young and often relied on his young, including Jimin. There are also those who remember the moments when Jimin openly supported Jungkook, both on stage and behind the scenes. All of those memories seem to be reassembled in one short but meaningful hug. Jimin's emotional statement that triggered all this was also a highlight. Many interpreted his words as a reflection of an inner journey that was not easy. About the pressure that comes with popularity, about the ever-growing expectations, and about the importance of having someone who truly understands without needing much explanation. Jungkook, who is known for rarely expressing his emotions verbally in public, chose body language as his answer. And that's exactly where the power is. The hug felt sincere, not artificial, and born from the deepest impulses of the heart. The watchers also spoke up. They call this moment a vivid example of relationships built on trust and empathy. Not a relationship that needs to be exaggerated, but quite felt. In an industry that often demands perfection, this kind of emotional honesty is rare and valuable. Armies in different parts of the world share their own stories. Some say that the moment helped them get through a tough day. Others feel reminded of their own closest ones, who may rarely utter words, but are always present when needed. Jungkook and Jimin, unknowingly, have touched the lives of many people with one simple act. What makes this moment even more special is the reaction after it. Jimin looked a little smiley, his eyes teary, but his face seemed lighter. Jungkook returned to his place with a calm expression, as if the hug had also given him relief. No extra words, no long explanations. But that's exactly where the beauty is. Until now, the event is still being discussed. The video of the hug was constantly replayed, analyzed, and kept as a precious memory by the army. Many call it a moment that will be remembered for a long time, not for its drama, but for its frankness. In the midst of the hustle and bustle of the entertainment world, Jungkook and Jimin again reminded that behind the glitter of the stage and the camera's spotlight, they are still human. People who feel tired, longing, gratitude, and love in various forms. And sometimes, one hug is more meaningful than 1,000 words. Perhaps for some, this is just a brief interaction between two group mates. But for ARMY, this is a reminder of the value of togetherness that has been at the core of BTS. A hug born of an emotional statement turns into a symbol of unconditional support, and therein lies its strength. Jungkook hugged Jimin not to steal the show, not to create a sensation, but because back then, that was what was needed. A response that is honest, spontaneous, and full of flavor. ARMY agreed on one thing: this moment will live on, not just as a viral clip, but as an enriching piece of Jungkook and Jimin's journey together. A reminder that behind any achievement, the most valuable is a sincere human connection. When the hug happened, the world seemed to stop for a moment. And perhaps, for Jungkook and Jimin, it was one small moment to breathe, strengthen each other, and move on together, as they had done all along. That moment has indeed passed, but the echoes of his emotions are still felt today. Even after the camera shifted and the atmosphere returned to normal, ARMY realized one important thing: something was changing, or at least getting clearer. Jungkook and Jimin's relationship is not just about being together on stage, but rather a bond formed from years of understanding each other in silence. Moments after the hug, a small interaction between the two was again captured. A short look, a slight smile, and a gesture that seems to say that it's okay to be fragile for a moment. Jimin looked calmer, as if the burden he had just expressed was no longer entirely on his own shoulders. While Jungkook, although again showing his relaxed attitude, still kept the same eye, attentive and caring. ARMY also recalled how Jungkook and Jimin often relied on each other in difficult moments before. Without many open confessions, without excessive drama, they always find a way to be present with each other. The hug this time only made clear something that the fans had already felt, that among the hustle and bustle of the world, they had a safe space for each other.